I want to say before I get in here, even get in here good, I want to say, I want to remind everybody, hit the like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. But I want to remind you that I will not be here next week. I will not be here on YouTube. I will not be here on Patreon. Next week is my birthday week, and I intend to relax. So, if you're looking for me and you say, "Where is Yvette? Where did she go?" Not here. So, and I didn't go away. I'm just gonna be chilling. Right, so I'm not, it's that's gonna be, no, I'm gonna be laying down. So appreciate y'all, but I won't be here. Won't be here. Next, 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 next week. So listen, I want to take a, I'm not, like I said, I'm not gonna, we don't have to take that much time, right? Like we don't have to take. And for those of you all who remember, I'll have to bring the video back up. But for those of you all who remember, I have addressed this Burna Boy issue before. Like, cause when we talk about Burna Boy, I have addressed this before. I don't know, before we get into it, I want you all to kind of remember, and I'm going to refresh everybody's memory before we even. Well, what did he say? What did he say this time? Well, that's not even the main question, is it? And I'm not going to be mean, but the main question is, why does he keep talking about us? Isn't that the main question? Why do we have to keep turning up in these conversations? Why can't you find something? But I know the answer, right? I know the answer, so I'm going to talk about the answer in just a second. But I absolutely do know the answer. Let me just take care of one thing really quickly. My goodness. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll move this to here. Let me tell y'all something. Being your own little producer is really, really something. See, because this was supposed to go up here. This has to go up here. Bear with me, fam. This has to go here. This has to go here. Move this here. Move this to the left. And I just, while I'm doing this, it is just, what do the people say? It's beyond me. What do they say? It is beyond me. Why do I have to keep being a name that comes up in your mouth? I mean, quite honestly, what is that about? And the last time, we're going to get into what he said last time, but the last time it was, well, we don't have a sense of self, and we don't have an identity. And we like, the insinuation is just keeps being that we need some kind of help, right? We need some kind of help, and Burna Boy is here to help us. And all these people are here to help us, right? And I think we're okay. Like, we have endured slavery and everything else. Give me one more second, family. Move this from right here to here, because this is not going to work. I don't know why I set up my little view like this, because this aggression cannot stand. Okay, there we go. Now, for those of you who do not know, Burna Boy had some stuff to say. I don't know if it was really said to us or just about us. You understand? And he came back and he tried to walk it back. Well, that's fine. Let me show you what he said when he walked it back. Because what he said initially was, well, the thing that happens with ADOS, black people in America, is that we have lost our sense of self. And he said we have to connect. He said we have to connect back to the roots. Our roots apparently in Africa. And he came back with this apology of sorts and said that that's not the way he meant it. Right? That was obviously, y'all have mistook Burna Boy's intention. But let's just go back to the beginning now that I have it. So he used this. I don't want to use the audio because, people get real copyright crazy. Let's use America, Burna Boy. I don't like any grown man who uses boy in the name. I know NBA young boy and all the little people do it, but I think we went through years of whatever. Burna Boy began before saying that any country can be an example. He said the Chinese Chinese American has a base. He knows he's from China. Italian Americans know where their grandparents came from in Italy. They know the first person from their family to come to America and start that line. Same goes to everyone except African Americans. Right? Same goes to everyone. So this, once again, is this is African Americans, ADOS. We are somehow lost. That is the assumption. You know, everybody knows where they come from except us. Now, let me tell you something. Even when you look at immigrants, people who voluntarily immigrate here, after the second generation or so, they begin to lose connection with their homeland. So it's not even true what he's saying, that everybody just has a connection. Yes, homelands are important, right? When the guy from India came here and he got messed up, the Indian government contacted America and said, hey, what's up with this, y'all? What's going on with y'all's police? Y'all did this. We know the importance of homeland in terms of Mexicans going back home and building a restaurant for $5,000. That's something that we can't do here. I'm not saying that homelands don't have an importance. But when people immigrate to a place permanently, they usually assimilate and they don't anchor themselves in where they come from. Yes, there are Irish people right now who can tell you about their family who came over during the potato famine. They absolutely can. But and they will absolutely get sloppy drunk on St. Patrick's Day. But they're not anchored in that. They consider themselves American. And they don't consider themselves lost. There is this desire amongst some on the continent of Africa to make us feel somehow lost and tell us what we need. You're on tour here, though. You're on tour in America, and the only reason you're on tour here is because ADOS fought a fight for liberation for us to have a life, and then right after that, you could have a life. You're here because of us. If anything, you should be asking us, how do we fight? How do we fight the fight we fight? The colonialists did us wrong and we don't know what to do. How do we do what y'all do? You're not in a position, Burna Boy, to give anybody advice on what should happen. You are not in a position. The motherland is not, that they like to call it, right? Is not in a position to give. And when you talk about getting reconnected, we will have to talk about who caused the disconnection in the first place. Listen, you can't blame us for forgetting about nothing when you walked us around the forgetting tree when it was time for us to be sold to the white people, right? That is the point of sale of us, of the initial slaves who eventually became Ada. The point of sale is your initial contact. You cannot tell us that we need to remember when you walked us around the forgetting tree. I just don't know what you're talking about now. Like I said, let me go back to one thing. Like I said a second ago, this is not Burna Boy's first time. So let's just all remind ourselves of what he said the first time. He keeps trying to get this off. And he needs to stop trying to get this off. Listen, if you make little Afro beats music or whatever, do that. Some people like it. Some people enjoy it. Knock yourself out. I'm not one of those people, but knock yourself out. I don't care what people enjoy. That's their business. And he says, at the start of last year, he says he was outraged that his name was too small on the poster at Coachella. I am an African giant and will not be reduced to whatever the teeny writings means, he says. Right? Now, let me look at what year this was. It's a year on here. No, I think this was 2020, if I'm not mistaken. I think this was 2020. By the end, Barack Obama had included his track Anybody on the list of his best songs 2019 playlist. Ooh, Barack is a problem. Beyonce had called on him to provide a track for her smash hit Lion King soundtrack, and African Giant had been nominated at the Grammys for Best World Music Album. Now this is where he starts to talk about us. This is like 3 years ago. Like I said, this is not something that just happens. Burna Boy believes that there's something deeper at work when it comes to his popularity in the UK. Most of the people from the UK, if not all the black people from the UK and the people of color, they know where they are from, he says. They know exactly where their roots are. This, he says, makes it easier for people to tune into his wavelength. It took longer for his music to find an audience in the U.S. This, he says, is a consequence of African Americans not having the same close connection with Africa. So you're not getting your music off in America was our fault. It was because we don't have a connection with where we come from. Maybe we're just not that into you. Okay, unfortunately, he says, the brothers in the U.S. have been stripped of their whole knowledge of self. So it's a bit harder, you know. When he collaborated with the U.S. rappers YG and Future, he said he was bringing my brothers home. Let me just say this. People have to stop denying us our agency. When you deny us our agency to say who we are, we have been in this country longer than, listen, you don't tell the Irish they need to go back home to Ireland. They immigrated after we did. You don't tell the Italians they need to go back to Italy. They immigrated after we did. You don't tell nobody else they need to go nowhere but us. At some point, we have to tell these people, you don't get to define me. You don't get to tell me where to go. You don't get to tell me what I need. You need to collaborate with me to get hot. So you don't get to tell me where home is. You don't get to give me no advice. You get to be quiet and eat your food. That's what all this stuff is because you thought you know more. You thought you knew more than you did. And let me say this. I understand why he said it because they've been getting that stuff off for decades. Well, the problem is you don't know where you're from. The problem is you don't know where you come from. The problem is y'all lost y'all connection. Listen, you still have your connection, Burna Boy. Did you have to go over here and get with in terms of really popping off? And did you what all them chains and stuff you wear? Where that come from? Your whole aesthetic. Don't tell me, well, they wear diamonds over here. No, this whole rapper, Negro, Cuban chain thing that you got going on. Where that come from? No, not just diamonds. The whole, not those tacky pants. I'm not talking about that. Where does that come from? This idea that we survive. Understand something. We have survived in this country. Something that nobody else has ever survived. We've been here longer than everybody else. Nobody ever tells anybody else to go back anywhere. But you feel it necessary to tell us we have endured in the belly of the beast consistently for 400 years. 400 plus years we have been fighting the same fight valiantly. And you feel like you can tell us something? You feel like in order to be successful in some kind of spiritual way, we need something from you. No. Whatever we had to do, we had to create it ourselves because you didn't ever send no ship. Right? So we did everything that we needed to do for ourselves. Every time something pops off in America, it pops off around the world. We run this. Like, whether you look at the Black Liberation Movement, whether you look at the reparations movement right now, once ADOS started, we didn't just have a bunch of people in America who did copycat movements and all that stuff. That's not just what we had. We also had people around the world who said, you know what, they tried to get reparations in America. I'm going to try to get it in Namibia. I'm going to try to get it. Haiti started talking. Jamaica started talking again. We had Namibia. We had Congo. We had all these countries start talking. Burna Boy, that's because we lead. And I'm not trying to say anything disrespectful. I'm just telling you what it is. We have our own, we define ourselves. We have our own agency. We have paved our own way. We have been here longer than anybody been here. We have been in America before America was America, before it was a country. We built it. We do not need a connection. Now, if you want to have a connection and be friends or whatever, that's fine. But stop telling us what we need. We are not children, and we're certainly not your children. Let me just go back to a couple of quotes from this article. When in June this year he won a BET Award for the Best International Male, he used the moment to make a point about Africa colonialism and Black Lives Matter. I'd like to use this opportunity to say, and I don't have a problem with him making whatever point he want to make, right? That's not my business. I'd like to take this opportunity to say that sometime around 1835, there was a mission to turn Africa to a dominated nation, he said, after being congratulated by Naomi Campbell via video link. Now is the time to overturn that and go back to the royalty that we were, because in order for Black lives to matter, Africa must matter. Now, I'm all for the fight for colonialism, against colonialism. I understand what has wreaked havoc. We understand it better than anybody else because we lived it domestically, whereas you lived it internationally. I totally understand that. But our lives matter regardless of what happens anywhere. Just like your life matters regardless of what happens here. It's not contingent on anything else. See, here's my issue. Here's what I want to do. Here's what I think we should all do. Hey, listen, this is the best way to fight the fights that we have to fight. And we ain't got to do it for a whole long time. We ain't. The best way to fight these fights, though, is everybody has to fight their fight from their corner of the world. Well, what does that mean, Yvette? You can't help me and I can't help you. And to the extent that I could help you, as ADOS, we've already helped black people as much as we can, quote unquote, around the world. We've helped you as much as we can. We never stood in the way of an immigration policy that allows you to immigrate here. We never stood in the way of that. We have never said, hey. We have never been tribal and said we want to be the only blacks over here. You understand? Y'all got to stop. We have never done that. To the extent that we have allowed you to come here and live a life without telling our politicians that this is what we want and we tired of that or whatever. We ain't never did nothing like that. So we have given you an opportunity to come here and you resemble us, so people accept you in a certain way because we're already here, because your people a long time ago sold us here. If you was on West Africa, not the whole continent. We've done enough. And instead of saying, you know what, the fact that I can come over here and sell music and collaborate is because you all accepted me. Thank you. Instead of that, we get this. So listen, you handle your corner of the world and deal as best you can with what colonialism has wrought, right? We will, on this corner of the world, do the best we can to deal with what America is doing to us. How America is oppressing ADOS. We will do that. We will fight as valiantly as we can from our corners. But I don't need you telling me what I need to do is get something from Reconnect, right? Because Nigeria, Burna Boy, and none of it's not Wakanda. There's nothing there. And if there was something there, you all would be using it for yourselves, right? If there was a tangible kind of quantifiable or qualitative value there, you will be using it for yourself. And let me just go to one last quote. And why did he make that point specifically, right? Why? I feel like the only way we can move forward is if we know that this is our home and we make sure our home is a place that is respected, he says. Once everybody respects your home, then they have no choice but to respect you. He says the problem is worse for black people in America. You can't demand respect in a place where they don't believe you belong. Well, let me just say this. He says you can't demand respect in a place where they don't believe you belong. First of all, Burna Boy is elite. He's affluent. So there's that. I don't even know why he's talking poor people talk. But the second thing is, you talk about what we can't demand. You can't demand respect because they don't believe you belong there. Well, hold on a second. What kind of respect are Nigerians demanding? Because when you look at some of these poverty rates, poverty head count rate in Nigeria as of 2019, it doesn't look like you respect, or whoever is leading the country respects the people there. Because if they did, why are they living in this kind of poverty? You can't, I just don't, and the lowest poverty I saw was 30%. Right, that was the lowest I saw. I'm not going to get to that, but I don't want anybody to think I'm being unfair. The lowest poverty rate I saw was 30%. Right? So if you say I can't demand respect in America because people don't think I belong here, I want to know how the people in Nigeria who are enduring extreme poverty, what kind of respect are they getting? I know you may not know, Burna Boy, because I think I read your mama speaks like 10 languages. Right? So I know you talk a good game, but you don't know anything. You didn't learn much in those boarding schools. It's okay. I'm going to teach you. These are astronomical rates of poverty. Well, somebody might come and say, well, Yvette, you all have a hard time in America. The police chase you down and beat you. Your police chase you down and beat you too. I saw SARS. I saw the SARS hashtag. They beat you down. They chase you down and beat you too, don't they? They don't care. Well, we all black people. We all Nigerians. I'm not going to beat you down. They beat you too. So what's the difference? What's the difference between getting beat or getting murdered? Oh, the melanin makes all the difference. I don't think so. But when you look at those poverty rates, that is extreme poverty rate. The lowest poverty rate I saw was 30%, right? You see, let's go back. I want y'all to just look at this. That's the bottom. We go up to the top. It's 80. We're looking at 80% poverty. Okay, now go to where y'all do bad too. Well, in America, the poverty rate amongst black people, and we don't have it disaggregated as of yet, is 19.5%. Right? That's still not the extreme poverty of Nigeria. Now hold on. That's still way too high. We are owed reparations, and we are fighting this. But let me tell you what I won't do. Let me tell you what I absolutely will not do. I will not exchange the extreme poverty in Nigeria for the poverty that ADOS endure today. You're not gonna get me. You're not gonna. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. We got videos and stuff now. Don't lie to me. I'm not exchanging it. I'm not exchanging. Listen, it's almost like people want us to do the year of return and go back, and so y'all can come here and we can just trade places. No. We got sold and we're here now. We've been here a long time. We are anchored in this country. We are Americans. We are more American than anybody else. We are more American than apple pie and jelly beans, baby. You cannot tell me there is no home. Anybody in their family ever talked to somebody if you're pure ADOS and they knew about another home that wasn't America? Have you ever? You only go and talk to us because let me tell you, whether Burna Boy realizes it or not, because I'm going to get to what he said, but whether he realizes it or not, what you're saying is an attempt to manipulate and market. So let me tell you what's normally happens. People come over here, and we've all been victims of it. I've been a victim of it too. I used to think the same thing. Like when I was in my teens and 20s, oh my God, they must be now. I never wore no dashiki or no little chain, but I was like, man, they know they people, and they know. And then you hear about it firsthand from other people, from people who live there, and you're like, oh, that's what y'all live. I don't know. What time the lights be off? And bandits? Where a bandit at? They be in the streets. Well, did you call 911? Oh, you don't have 911. Oh my word. But if you say that to us, the thing is, most of the time, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have Instagram. We just went by what people told us. And if they told us it was all just kings and queens, we just believed it. And that was a way to manipulate us and be like, man, we really are lost, man. They over there knowing everybody and everybody black, and it's so cool. And we never asked ourselves, if it was so cool, why you here? If everything was so wonderful, why you here? If life was so good and you know where your people was from and you knew what tribe and all that stuff, and tribalism really gets in the way with y'all. Y'all get stuck on that stuff. The Chinese can come in there and eat up everything, and y'all be talking about the tribe and Igbo and all this stuff. What is you talking about? But listen, I was like that too. Like, oh man, we was enslaved, and we didn't even know at that time that they enslaved us. They kidnapped us, and they know where they come from. Now we know. And now we know you can't even really buy land over there or whatever. You can't. Because I told people that. I said, how you going? Some people said, we going to buy land in Ghana. I said, how? Well, you could just buy land there just like you buy in the West. First of all, no, you can't. But second of all, like, how do you enforce it? Like, see, if I buy a house down the street or in Michigan or whether I buy it in whatever, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, Texas, like there are certain, first of all, this is a country. Right, so I know that the laws may be different from place to place, but they're gonna be reasonably like similar, right? I'm not gonna go over there and somebody just done forged a bunch of paperwork, unless it's some sovereign citizen Moors or something, right? And then you just gotta get the police, get these weird people out of this house. They nuts, cuckoo. Like I can get you out of there, I can get the police, I can go to court. Now, first of all, when is you flying to that African country where you own the land? And you going to Ghana. When is you flying over there? Now, how many times y'all got to go to court? Right? You going to fly over there all them times when y'all got to go to court. Okay. Now, who is going to protect you in Ghana when you go over there? Do you got some kind of security? Because these people, they all in there together. So, okay. Now, what if you go over there and they done forge the paperwork? What you going to do? Like, what you going to do? You going to fight them? You got you a little machete or something on? You go, what you going to do? See, the thing that when people talk about, it's real cool to talk about we going to invest in Africa, right? Yeah, that sounds real good until you realize you don't have any levers for enforcement, right? Sounds real good. A lot of stuff sounds real good till you realize that like they don't really have 911 like that. When you get into, you ever been in the back of a 911 ambulance? I had to be in the back of one time, and my mama took a tumble, right? Fell outside. My daddy called, hey, you just got my bum out of the yard. You can't get up. Whatever. I'm like, what you out of the yard? What's going on? So she laid out in the yard. And My daddy tried to get a wheelbarrow, and she wouldn't get in the wheelbarrow. You know, people just be disagreeable. So anyway, I said, well, Mama, you gonna have to. So we get in the back of the ambulance. They got everything in there. So my daddy followed us. I said in there, they got everything in there. I said, you got all this stuff in here? My mom was like, oh, I'm like, quiet down. You just got something torn. I'm trying to figure out what they got in this ambulance. All kind of syringes, all kind of little salines and drugs. I said, well, my goodness. They got everything up in here. Now, we take stuff for granted because we live here. We take first world life for granted. But when I was in the ambulance with my mama, because she wouldn't get in the wheelbarrow, you walk up, what y'all call me? What's going on? But I got in the ambulance and I see, there wasn't nothing but a little tear. It turns out, just like we said, took her there and wasn't. I called my sister. She up here and because they called her too. She couldn't get there quick enough. I said, we over here, and she got to the hospital. I said, she got a little tear on her. She got a tear on the back of her knee, but she done a ligament or something because she wouldn't get in the wheelbarrow. It was all because she wouldn't get in the wheelbarrow. But family, my family is, they know the butter cookies. I'm telling you. But I saw something inside that ambulance. They had enough stuff in there. I'm just saying, like, we don't realize you want that. And you don't have that, though. Like, I remember asking a friend of mine who was Nigerian, like, what do y'all do? Like, if something really bad happens then? And he was like, we have, like, this kind of helicopter insurance that will fly us away, like, to another country. You see, yes, they go away for care. Now, have you been in a situation where you have had to go to another country for care? I'm not talking about, the problem we have in this country is that we can't afford our care, right? We need more money, but the care is here, and the hospital's not supposed to turn you away, right? So why y'all laugh? He did have a wheelbarrow, I promise y'all, fam. But let me just show you this. This man had a private jet. He blocked the registration. Then he left Nigeria to seek help, to seek medical help in Europe. That's what they do. So they go to different places to get medical help. Are you prepared? Are you prepared to go somewhere and reconnect and go home, and you gotta go get medical help that way? Are you prepared for that? Like, are you prepared to have to you ain't got no private jet? Are you prepared to be a bottom caste in a poor country? See, we're a bottom caste in a rich country. It looks different and it hit real different. My daddy at least had a wheelbarrow. He could afford, it's all kind of tools. And she had got, and listen, don't y'all say nothing bad about my daddy. I support him. She should have gotten the wheelbarrow because there wasn't nothing seriously wrong with her. And when nobody had to be at the house and come, she should have just gotten the wheelbarrow. And that's just the way things should have happened. I would have done the same thing. No, that sounds like some stuff. I realized when you get to a certain age where you realize your parents really are your parents. And you would have done the same stuff. I would have got the wheelbarrow too. You can get on here, I'm going to roll you in the house, and that's just how it's going to be. That's just how it's going to do. So, and even Burna Boy says, like, when he was younger, he fell in love with American rappers, Naughty by Nature, DMX, Big Pun, Busta Rhymes, all that stuff. So, like, what you're telling us is that we gave birth to you, right? We birthed what you used to help create your sound, not the other way around. That's what that means. And listen, we have to talk about something else if we're going to have an honest conversation. We have to talk about, you tell us to reconnect, but most Africans are saying that they want to move. Substantial shares of people in 3 African countries, this is a poll from 2019. 3 African nations, Nigeria, Tunisia, Kenya, say they plan to move to another country within 5 years, according to a Pew Research survey conducted in 2018. So if you have if I look at a situation where you have 45% of the people saying I'm leaving, that is not a place where I can connect because your people who live there don't want to be there. That means that is something that your country has to fix. And I'm not trashing your country at all. I don't want people to take it that way. Like, I don't want people to take it as Yvette is talking bad about Nigeria. I'm not talking about negatively about any country, whether it be an African country or an American country. We all have our stuff. Y'all in Nigeria just dealt with voter suppression. We deal with it all the time. I'm not saying anything to diminish you. I'm just trying to get y'all to stop diminishing us. I am not saying that somehow we are better. I am showing you the limitations of what you're saying. There are limitations to you telling me I should come to your country and reconnect when 45% of the people are leaving. That looks like that might be a failed state. When you see that many people who are trying to leave and relocate permanently, that's a failed state kind of situation. And I would think that all of your energy, all of your focus would be on that, as opposed to being on us reconnecting. Because obviously there's no vibranium there. obviously, I don't know where in the continent of Africa Wakanda might be, but it would not be where 45% of the people are trying to leave, because people seem pretty comfortable when the vibranium was there and they would chill now. But everybody wants to try to convince us that like the vibranium is there. A lot of people already gathered information about leaving. Like 55% of the people in Nigeria and 70% of the people in Tunisia and 50% in Kenya, they had already started preparing and gathering information about moving to another country. That's a lot of people who are trying to get away. There are limitations. People are being abducted and those sorts of things. Listen. I'm not saying trafficking and a whole bunch of stuff don't happen here. I'm not saying murder, gun violence. Listen, you can make whatever criticism you want to make. I agree. I absolutely agree. What I'm saying, though, is that, like I said earlier, we should all focus on our own problems in our own corner of the world. Right? That's just what I'm saying. And it's always funny to me. You know, the people never talk about people. Oh, the ADOS is conservative. No, we're not. We're not that at all. We understand the limitations of conservatism. We understand the limitations of Republicans. We understand all of that. But when you look down at the bottom, look at the percentage of people in the percentage who have, you know, in the U.S. Donald Trump to do the right thing, who believe Donald Trump is going to do the right thing in world affairs. The biggest ones who believed in Trump were when the three African countries that they listed. So that's a strain of conservatism. I have no issue with it, but I'm just saying. People have to deal with their issues. That's all. Why is that? I don't understand why that is an issue. You have to deal. As ADOS, we have to deal with our own issues. We have to fight our own fight. Why is it such a problem? Why you keep trying to make us feel like we're not whole unless we come from kings and queens? A lot of us came from spear chuckers. Minorities, monarchs are few and far between. Even if you come, that's like saying, well, you come from whatever over there across the pond and you are king and queen. No, you are no relationship to Queen Elizabeth and them. So what you talking about? What you talking about? And why y'all keep telling us what home is? See, that's just a problem with self-agency. Like, you gotta feel like you can tell us something. And then he came back. Let me be fair and put up what Burna Boy said. He just kind of lost. Well, I think they've all just kind of made a thing about making us feel lost, right? Like, you got to deal with China and all that kind of stuff that you got going on in your country. You shouldn't have no time for us. It's sad to see that in 2023 there are still such black people who would prefer to stay divided and conquered. Maybe it's my accent or something, but I never said you are African and not American. Well, when you tell us why we should come back and reconnect, you're telling us that we're really not as American as we think. Burna Boy, when you tell us that America doesn't think we should be here, you're telling us that we're not as American as we think. When you tell us that we have a need to reconnect, you should just tell us that your country's wonderful or something and we should visit. Like, that's what you should say. When you tell us that, it signals that there's a belief that we're not as American as we think or as we know. You deserve all the land and reparations you want from America, and I'm 100% in support of that. All I've ever done is try to make You understand that you have Africa too that loves you, and I believe coming together as brothers and sisters is the only way. Now, here's a problem. It's the only way forward for U.S. black people worldwide. You work against the process of our people worldwide if your goal is to keep us divided. Here's the problem. Here's the problem, I believe. People are going to be mad. I don't think we're brothers and sisters. I don't. Having ancestry doesn't make you brothers and sisters. Now, if you want to build a relationship of some kind that's built on some kind of shared values, we can do that. But we are not just brothers and sisters. Listen, that's centuries ago, is a long time ago, right? And the way we got over here was being sold over here. You skipped over that. See, everybody loves to skip over the whole slavery part. We don't want to talk about slavery at all. We just want to say we brothers and sisters because we all come from Africa. Yeah, but Yeah. But would a brother sell a brother? Would a sister sell a sister? I don't know, because that's how we got here. Now, I'm not saying that I'm just going to hold on to that. Blah, blah, blah. But stop saying that. Just let's talk about what you have to offer and what I have to offer, and whether or not that's something I want, instead of telling me what I should do or what I should feel. Why don't you ask me what I want? Because you don't know enough to tell me anything. Like, why don't you ask me, do I want to come here, or do I want to be a part of something, or you have something you think I like? Why don't you say that? Why do you keep telling me what I need? What I need isn't over there. I'm doing my work in this part of the world. I don't need anything over there. That's not xenophobic. That's not Afrophobic. That's just the way it is. Like, some people just really have a problem dealing with the world as the world presents itself. And they want to deal with the world at another level. They want to deal with the world from their imagination, from this kind of imagined way of thinking. You would love to be Burna Boy, and you would love to walk around saying, that's not your life. And his life is not our life. And he doesn't get to dictate. He doesn't get to dictate to us who we are. He doesn't get to dictate to us what we feel, how we feel. He hasn't lived this life. He doesn't know this life. He doesn't know this life. Look, this is Burna Boy's life. He describes his upbringing as being not too rich, not too poor. But it's fair to say it was comfortable. His father worked in construction, while his mother was a translator for the West African Chambers of Commerce. She is fluent in French, Italian, and German. Listen, you are not us. We are not you. And you've got to stop. Like, this marketing has to stop. What do you mean about this marketing? There is this marketing where everybody knows that in America, ADOS responds to this king and queen stuff. If you say we was kings and queens, we come running. Yes, I was a king and a queen before I came. Because we do anything to psychologically escape from the pain that America has dealt us. So we will live in this imaginary. So if somebody runs up and says, you was a king and queen in Africa. Now, we could trace ourselves all the way back to spear chuckers, right? But we want to believe that. And so when they say that, it's a two-edged sword, though, because everything has an inverse, right? So we feel powerful, but on the other side, we feel not powerful because we feel lost. Oh my God, I used to be a king and queen. I'm not a king and queen no more over here. I'm just going to work every day. And I'm not no king no more. So like an old dog. You got to let that go. Because as long as you keep that, as long as people can market to you based on this idea, and you have this two things going in your head, I wish I was a king, I used to be a king, but now I'm not a king no more, I feel sad because I'm lost, and I'm not over there no more, and I ain't got my tribe no more. You don't need no tribe. ADOS is your tribe, but we don't even operate like this tribalism where you got hundreds of tribes. Don't nobody do that. That's why part of the reason they're so divided. Too many tribes. Tribes everywhere. Child, we don't need all them tribes. But you got to let that go, because people use marketing to manipulate you. So what they're using to manipulate you is the fact that they know Africa resonates in the psyche of ADOS. So if he wants to sell albums or whatever, he's going to say, we know you just got to come home and reconnect, my brother, or whatever. We kings. And let me tell you, our men love to be called kings. Our women love to be called queens. We need to just call ourselves ADOS. Because ain't nobody king. Listen, kings and queens are very pampered people. Kings and queens are very pampered people. They're not tough. They have soft skin. They don't fight. You need to consider yourself a soldier rather than a king and a queen. You are soldiers. You are generals in an army. Whether you are generals, platoon leaders, privates, all that stuff. In a fight that we have fought since we got here. We ain't stopped fighting since slavery. That's who you are. You are a fighter. You are a warrior. That is much better than being a soft king or a queen with pampered toes and pampered fingers and somebody rubbing your back. You want to be soft? Be a king or a queen. I'm just telling you what it is. You can like it and love it or not like it. I don't really care. But if you want to be soft, be a king, queen, sit back. You ever watch movies where somebody comes in? It's always the soldiers that come in and snatch stuff away from the king, queen. Give me that! And they be like, oh, well, I can't stop. Yeah. Kings and queens are soft. What do you want to be? Who do you think you are? Just look at your whole history from the time we've been here to now. Who do you think you are? Do you think you're the fighter? Or do you think you're the king and the queen? Do you think you're the soldier with knives and grenades and guns and everything else and hand-to-hand combat? Or do you think you're kings and queens? I don't know why you find that so good. I don't know what makes you so happy and proud of coming from kings and queens. And this is what he said. I think I skipped over this in the basics. Yeah, I think I said this. People know where they come from. Yeah, Burna Boy. Chill out. Just relax. So, in ending this little segment, I just want to say that we just have to stop allowing people to uproot us to market their albums or whatever. People do that just to kind of market, right? Whether you talk about the Lion King, whether you talk about Wakanda, it's just the stuff that resonates in our psyche isn't really us, Somebody said, I think they called in to one of the, I think it might have been a Patreon show. I can't remember whether it was this show or a Patreon show, but they said I didn't like the fact that they used Black Panther for Wakanda because Black Panther had a history in our country. And it did. Black Panther was our Black Panthers. There was a lot of stuff that went back to Black Panther, right? And they used it for Wakanda, yes, because that's what resonates in the psyche of ADOS. And it's this Africanness, this fantastical imagining of what life would have been or what life could have been. And, I don't know how you just kind of say that, like, you're born into the life you were born into, right? And there is no fantastical imaginary Africa. There is no homeland. There's no Wakanda. And there won't be a year of return. The life you have, the life your kids have and your grandkids have will be the life that you fight for here. It won't, the life that they have here could be because you fought. And that's it. It won't be because you used your imagination, right? And sat around and dreamed about being king. It won't be because you said, yeah, Burna Boy, you right. It won't be because of that. It will be because you decided to fight for a life here in America. You can either fight to keep it or you can be lazy and lose it. It's really all the choice you have. Right? But year of return, people, let me know how it turns out. let me know how you bought that land. I'm like, don't run away. Don't run away when it goes back bad. You got to tell the whole story. Don't be why it didn't go right. Whatever. But anyway, fam, that's it. Let me I'm finna just open up the phones for anybody who wants to call in to have a conversation. And it is what it is. Like I said, we didn't have to go no hour and 20 and keep going today. It's just a little short conversation. Give me a few minutes and I'll set up the phones and we'll be back to have a conversation. All right, fam, we are back. We are back. We are back. I'm going to my first caller. I am going to, I have two of these callers. So 6786, area code 678, and 6 is the next number. So, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, this is Darius calling out of Atlanta. How you doing?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing good. I had to call first time caller, but when you were referring back to the guy that brought up the Black Panther movie in the Patreon, that was me. So I got
okay.
and I had to call you. Yeah, I was always interested in how you talked about how the consequences of us as a people not centering ourselves in cinema or entertainment, the kind of consequences that has in our psychology. And as someone who's went to film school in Clayton State University, in Clayton County, for movies, I've always been interested in, just cinema, entertainment, films, things of that nature.
Okay.
And having grandfathers on both sides of my family who served in World War One, and also working with older Black veterans in the medical field, I was just hyper aware of just the amount of contributions, African Americans have made to the United States military. And I've come to see that the Black Panther is like, a particular type of insignia patch that was worn on like a lot of World War One and World War II veterans. And in fact, I heard Michael B. Jordan supposed to be doing a movie about like the first Black tank battalion in World War One.
Okay.
That I think possibly donned the first Black Panther badges. And so just seeing how it's like our own mascot has been appropriated in a reverse kind of fashion. It's like this African fantasy, utopian type of narrative, and how impressionable we are as a community to entertainment. I've just always thought, the way we center ourselves in our music or in our movies and our film plays a big role in possibly just getting a critical mass of us to become more aware of the ADOS and the need for
and let me say, and I think you're right, fam. Let me say something, because, cinema is supposed to reflect you back to you, right? Like, one of the reasons we don't like, and one of the reasons we really like Denzel Washington, right, is because of how we feel like we know that man. Like, we done seen him somewhere, right? In a family or at a barbershop, we know him. It's supposed to kind of, when Angela Bassett, and now she's in Wakanda, child. And that's what she got the Oscar. Not one for Tina Turner. I mean, she didn't get the win. So it's just like, it's supposed to reflect us back to us. And that's one of the things that we always get upset about, is we feel like we don't have representation that doesn't reflect us. Well, it's reflecting Africa now back to us in certain ways, right? And it's like, that's not us. And you're right in terms of representation in cinema matters. How you see yourself reflected on that big screen, and then how other people interpret you based on how you were reflected there, right? This is showing like to the extent that we have the opportunity, we're seeing, representations of Africa, right? As opposed to people with accents. We don't have accents. As opposed to our own representations, as superheroes. And I always found that problematic. I also found it problematic how cool the CIA was and how they really was the hero. So I found a lot of stuff problematic. But I agree with you in terms of like, you have to, media and cinema is a great way to anchor movement work. It's a great way to anchor love for the community. It's a great way to do that, and you shouldn't squander those opportunities. But I'll let you finish, fam.
Absolutely. That's pretty much just the majority of my thought. But I just feel like as a community, we kind of sell our own selves short with like the vastness of our culture and our history and our accomplishments. And so I just feel like one of your particular grievances that I've always paid attention to is how you've always had to critique that as Black Americans, we always express our fatigue with slave films, but yet we're always more than willing to see another type of BMF or a get rich or die trying type of theory.
We love a drug dealer film.
Glorified the 80s movement.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I said we love a drug dealer film. We love to hear about how somebody sold a brick of cocaine, right? We love that. Oh, he broke that brick up. And child, I don't want to know about how he cooked it up and he stole it. And let me tell you how he flipped it. I don't want to know. But we hate seeing slave movies. And it's very interesting because, other people whether it be the Irish, whether it be the Jewish community in the Holocaust, they take pride in the struggle and what they learned from it and how they came out of it. Like there's a sacredness, there's an honor about what they went through and their pain. Like as people, they don't just dismiss it. And we have a tendency to dismiss like our own hardship. Like understand we're only here because other people decide to fight, right? And we should not dismiss that suffering. They didn't just lay down and die. If they was a slave, they had to be a slave. That's what they did. And they endured, had kids, and so you're here. And to kind of dismiss that to me has always seemed like just a real slap in the face to not only the ancestors, but if you want to have kids and keep your line going in the world, it's a slap in the face to them to not honor where you came from, right?
Right.
So that's
Absolutely.
what
I agree 110%. I don't want to keep your phone lines tied up. I was just so excited when you mentioned the question that I raised the other night on Patreon. I had you call in for the first time.
Oh, appreciate you, fam. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
All right, love y'all.
Like, yeah, and the thing is, like, listen, I'm one of them people. If you said something, I'm gonna say somebody said this to me. I'm not gonna take credit for it. I don't take credit for nothing I didn't do. I'm gonna be like, I heard this somewhere. You know, I'm not gonna be like, yeah, I made this up. You know, I was thinking. A lot of people like to lift or whatever. No, if you said it, I'm gonna make sure everybody know you said it. 206, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Yes, Yvette, this is Rasul. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Very well, thank you. Yes, I was listening to your program. I am from Comoros. That is off the coast of Tanzania.
Okay.
And it's right next to Madagascar. Now, in Tanzania, Eritrea, Congo, Ghana, of course, as well as Nigeria, Togo, Benin, and other locations, they have been having cases where people from the America, Black Americans from America and England are coming there to purchase land, and the land is being stolen from them. Their money is being taken. Their contributions to purchase the land has been taken, where there has been fraudulent deeds taking place. And you are correct. This is happening all over the continent.
Mm.
And the people there, see, they are not, of course, they are not putting that in the news, but these are cases that are happening because, as you said, many Africans in different countries on the continent are trying to get to Europe, they are trying to get to America, they are trying to get to Canada. That is true. And then you have, a small percentage of Black Americans from America as well as Europe are trying to come over there because they are caught in the year of the return, which is constant, but they are not giving the full details of what is really going on. You have to be in these countries for at least a minimum of 5 years or invest $150,000 or $200,000 more to actually be able to receive land. Oh. And they are not telling these people that. Oh. So I just wanted to
a lot of money.
Make that be known that you are correct in those statements that you make where the land is being taken from the people that have put it. And things will resort to violence if you do not have or already structure where it is that you would like to go when you are coming from America or England also.
Well, I want to thank you for calling and clarifying that, fam, because, everybody will call me a liar. Yvette just lied and that's not happening.
Oh, no. You are very much correct. You are very much correct. And I just wanted to verify that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for calling. I appreciate you calling in and verifying for me. Thank you.
Indeed. Take care.
You too. You see what I don't be lying. And the thing is, like, you can't all the way blame them all the way, right? If I'm poor and these people who I think have more than me, right? They're coming over here to buy stuff and I don't have nothing. But listen, I might do something if I was them. I'm not saying I don't know. I'm just saying, like, Ain't gonna be no year return. That's all I'm saying. That year return is just not happening. So get that fantastical idea out of your head. You gonna go over there? Somebody go to my forward some documents. You don't have. I saw a snippet from a great little video the other day that talked about how much money you have to live in Ghana, and he was saying in order to like have, what would he say? In order to have, all the sewage and be protected in the community, you got to be in a gated community. You have to have generators, and in order to pay rent, somewhere like that. It's like anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 a month, but the rent has to be paid up front. So you're looking at anywhere from 30 to 60, 70, 80, $90,000 up front because they pay you got to pay by the year. Child, I can't. Y'all be trying to do some stuff. I can't. Good luck with all that stuff. I'm going now to 404. 404, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette.
Hey.
How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm Renee, and I've called in before, but when I heard you talking about some of the African countries where people are looking to come to America, I had to call in.
Okay.
In 2019, I visited Kenya, and I went on a safari trip. I was there about 3.5 weeks. Great experience. I'm glad I went because, so you know how when other folks from the diaspora come to America, and for the most part, as Black Americans, we're welcoming, and we don't look for a way to like be opportunistic with them.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, in some of my dealings, in some of these touristy spots, people, the Kenyans were cool, but I didn't feel that, hey girl, welcome home. I felt like some of them were like, you're just another tourist, like, buy our stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying.
And you are. Hold on 1 second, fam. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, I can hear you fine, but hold on 1 second. Let me say one thing before I forget. I said one time that I said I experienced that too, and people thought I was being mean to Africans or the people, and I'm not. I expect them to act that way because that's who I am. I'm a tourist. I hate that it was perceived that way, right? But that's how they're supposed to behave. This person is American. They probably have some American dollars because they can afford to travel. And I'm not from that country. They're not from my country. They're viewing me as a tourist. But go ahead, fam. I'm going to let you go. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that while it was on my mind.
No, it's fine. But, like, I have to remember that, okay, if I were anywhere else, I wouldn't be getting treated any different. But it was a bit of a culture shock, to be honest. But my first day there, I walked around somewhat, maybe a block or two out from my lodging just because I wanted to see, and I felt safe. I was okay. It was obvious that I wasn't Kenyan, but nobody treated me poorly. As a matter of fact, a few older men that were eating were like, oh, you're here from America, because they saw me taking pictures, and they were like, well, enjoy yourself. But as I got to talk to other Kenyans, what I learned is that a lot of their social issues very much mirror a lot of the social injustices that Black Americans face here. And I was explaining to them, like, I don't know what you're seeing in your media, but just because you see Black Americans and we look a certain way doesn't mean that some of us aren't suffering from homelessness, from poverty, from lack of health care, from lack of, like, a lot of basic necessities, from lack of good jobs. I was just like, poverty in America looks different, but it's still poverty. There are people that don't even have plumbing, just like in a lot of the Kenyan public bathrooms, you literally stand over a hole in the ground, and if you have to just, urinate, cool. If you have to do something else, well, I hope you have wet wipes. You have to work that out, but you're right. Poverty in America looks different than poverty there because, like, having a standard flushing restroom was not standard. And we were lucky sometimes to stop by a place in our travels that had flushing restrooms, and there was no guarantee that there would be tissues. But I say all that to say that two of the guys that helped transport us back and forth to our different countries asked me, hey, is it possible that you could possibly help me get, back to America? And I thought that was interesting. And I just had to be quite frank and honest with them. I was like, you have Black Americans born in America who aren't making it.
Mm-hmm.
You coming to America isn't going to magically change your life. I was like, I don't know if that's what people are telling you who have come there, but a lot of people who immigrate don't necessarily have better outcomes unless they have connections to wealth and resources.
Well,
so I was just very
hold on, fam. Hold on. What he's telling you is that y'all don't poo over a hole. See, I think being poor is different in the country that you're poor in. Like what's happening in America is that we should be up here and we're down here. But being down here in America is different than being poor in a poor country. And I'm sure he's thinking to himself, she talking all that stuff. I want to poo where the toilet flush and I don't want to do the hole. And she talking about this. But I understand what you're saying, but I understand what he was saying too. But go on, fam.
No, I understood because, and let me say this, because we traveled through multiple countries, mainly like by vehicle, it was great to see like there's a city life if you want that sort of experience. There's a more rural life if you want that experience. There's a countryside life if you want that experience. But there were clearly people there who I could tell were like unsheltered. And the first night I got there, my cab driver was like, their government is so corrupt that he gets hassled or basically jacked for his cab fare. And I was just like, that's so crazy. Like, that doesn't happen to Americans for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost unheard of. So I just thought it was interesting that some of the same social justice issues that exist in both countries, while like Kenya may be way more corrupt, America definitely has this corruption, but there's no pie in the sky either way you look. And I think the perception is everything. So I was just glad I got to see for myself that people can perceive us in certain ways because we're American, and that does have a basic standard, but they also needed to know that, like, no, Black Americans were born in America, fought and built America, and we are struggling.
Yeah, I agree. You got to set the record straight, fam. I appreciate it, and it's always good to have somebody call in who had firsthand experience somewhere. So I appreciate it. I think just like people, there are some Africans, not all, because I hate to put everybody in the same basket, but who love to tell us everything we do wrong in America and not understand it. And I don't talk much about what anybody should do anywhere, because I feel like I most of the time don't know enough. Right? Even if I've read about it, I don't know enough. That's a lived experience for you. That's an inherited experience for you. But just like you said, if y'all want to talk to us, then we can talk to y'all about some of the corruption, that happens there. Like, it's not all just, the man and all. No, corruption is an issue. So I appreciate you calling in, fam. Thank you so much. You have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, people, we go and we have all these kings and queens myths, and we go over there expect to see kings and queens and see regular people and holes in the ground and all kind of stuff. Just being poor is different depending on where you poor at. 678, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? You there, 678? 678, going once, going twice. All right, 678, we try. You done clicked over and got another call. Going now to 973. 973, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
New York. Alicia calling from New York.
Hey, Alicia, how you doing?
Okay, how are you?
Pretty good.
All right. I've had some global experience. I worked in nonprofits for a couple of decades, traveled. My mother's a shrewd businesswoman. She had property.
Okay.
And I just don't think that we are globally driven. I don't think Americans on the whole, for the most part, are globally driven. I don't think that we have that global perspective. I know that in the Caribbean, you constantly, if you're Black, you're dependent on tourism. Number one. And so you have that global mindset. To Africa some extent too, and I've been to a couple of countries in Africa. but then also this thing about class and poverty. The politics, I think, are just so different from the perspective of the sheer warfare, the sheer having a black president, having all of your professionals, all of your government be black people, but remotely driven by external countries. I think it in a way creates this stark class difference and this unawareness of whiteness that makes it a lot different than being here and being in the midst of it and understanding where your pressures are coming from and seeing that clear, stark line, between your communities and their communities, and to some degree being able to see things on both sides if you're lucky, right?
Well, let me say one thing too. I mean, and I know this might not have anything to do with anything, but I think one of the reasons America is not outward focused, as you would say, right? I think one of the reasons for that too is just like there are some ways in which America is kind of a magical place, and this is what I mean. America has everything. In the sense of America has mountains, America has plains, America and I'm talking about in terms of landscape. America has warm places in California or Florida or whatever. America has cold places where you can go ski. And it's just like America has so much in terms of like sometimes when you go to other countries like, well, I'm going to go summer this place because the summer isn't the same or whatever. They don't have the beaches, so I have to go beach here. And it's just because one of the reasons America has so much that there are no needs really to go international, whereas other people go abroad because the climate is a certain way here, or we don't have those kinds of beaches here. We have a lot, and America is kind of insular, in a way. But I understand what you're saying. I'm gonna let you complete your thought. I just wanted to get that out there.
True, but at the same time, we are a big part of America is a fantasy. It is the fantasy of consumerism. Mm-hmm. It is a lack of production. I know at 13, my grandmother had me doing distribution, and I felt like I got fired when China took over production.
You're right.
And when I go to Ohio or I go places like that, I see what's missing. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
You're right. So no doubt about
it. We have the things, but we don't have the production. We're not driven in such a way that if you're of a certain class, then you have access to the education of being a doctor. That's not too high of an aspiration, right? Mm-hmm. But if not, your poverty is what they call a different kind of poverty. I keep hearing it's a different kind of poverty. But at the same time, I have to say, our opportunities are different than external opportunities. We don't have those work programs that create paths for vocation.
No,
we don't have the need to stabilize a country, and so you may be poor, but there's tourism or there's some path for you, and it's not an exclusionary path race-wise. It is.
Well, you're getting into a very good conversation, but let me ask you another question, and stay on your path and listen to this question too. I have a question for you. Is it could I also make the case that sometimes their poverty is a better poverty? Because it's going to be the same across the board for that strata. Only a certain segment of people are going to have opportunity. So there is no expectation that you're going to somehow become upper middle class or rich. You're going to all be in the same strata, and there's a pride in going to work or whatever. Could we say that too on the other side?
I would definitely say that, and I would say my mother, having been a social worker and me sitting down listening to cases, their poverty isn't structured for isolation. Their poverty prepares them to hustle. And when we say we hustle, it's not within the infrastructure. It is not filling gaps. In your mind, you're not thinking, I'm filling this gap within the infrastructure. You're hustling from the hood.
And maybe doing
neighborhood.
something illegal that's outside of any infrastructure or any legal infrastructure.
Yeah, yeah. So if you are middle class and you gathered up your assets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're a hustler and you feel like you can hustle, I think you think twice about you extending that to Africa or the Caribbean. I really do. It's not the same. It's not the same thing. You know, it's really not anything you've ever seen as far as first of all, you becoming a dominant minority, and that's the other thing, in somebody else's country. And then you taking the risk of failure someplace else. You know, you just don't have the span of opportunities that these people have shared with each other for so long. We share our history. We share our growth within the country that we know. But we just don't have a global mechanism rooting for us.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And our success. We don't have that.
Mm-mm. Nope. No, I agree with you. You have some interesting thoughts, Carla. I agree. We don't have a global. Ooh, and that's something. We don't have a global rooting for us at all. Ooh. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's not the place to cut your teeth. And I think we need to become more mindful of that. You know, I think we need to be mindful of the things that others have. You know, my grandmother rented only to African exchange students, medical students, you know, because she was short to get her money. But seeing that there's a place for them when they get here, and that you can come all the way here and have your and pay your rent and expect to be a doctor after you finish school. We need to think about what we're missing, I think.
I think we need. I think we need to think about what we're missing in a lot of areas, right? So, politically, geopolitically, psychologically as well, though, right? I mean, just even for your grandmother, she can look at them and say they're gonna have the money. Like, to see that so many years ago and to know they're gonna have the money. That's the same thing HBCUs are doing right now. They're saying, you know, we're gonna have these international students because they're gonna have the money. We don't. I don't know if we look at that, and then when we look at it, I don't know if we assess that correctly and understand what that means for them and for us.
I think we assume that we are a part of something that we're not. And I think that we don't see assets in the sense of growth. We see the assets in the sense of sustaining. You know, so we don't get to the point where we say, you know, how do we grow our money? Ensure, you know, cut our risk, ensure our growth, and where do we take that growth? You know, how do we further expand? Where do you further expand to? You know, if you see your home as an asset, our thing is just to be able to sustain.
Well, the thing about it is, let me just jump on something you just said. Part of what growth is a web, right? And like part of the way you jump from web to web is there's somebody, when you grow, there's somebody else at that next level who is you, right? Or who has some of the same webbing, whether it's social, whether it's historical, they have your webbing, right? And you catch on to that web and you catch on to them so you grow. I don't even know if we had, like, part of what not having our own, part of what the robbing and the taking of land and all that stuff is that upper class that's supposed to be there, that next level that's supposed to be there. Because you can only understand something at your level, right? When you start to understand it at another level, you're latching on to something different. And I don't know if a lot of times that thing that is different is there on the next level for us to latch on to, right?
Well, and see, I grew up in upper to middle class black neighborhood with doctors, lawyers, and celebrities, okay? And Malcolm X.
Okay.
And it was a breeding ground as you could see how people were moving ahead, and you knew you had to move ahead, and you knew you better not fail. But it was not a web. It was not an infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
It was not, like black countries. However they fail, they have to be an infrastructure because they have to function for the
country
colonizers they
yeah.
feed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's not how we function. Even when we do well, we don't. That money does not shift among us, and each accomplishment is an individual accomplishment.
Well, isn't that why now when even ADOS has that individual accomplishment, you see them living in totally white worlds, right? For the most part, is because that is where they find other people who have that accomplishment, right? So it's not a country. It's not, like you said, it's not a country where you have that, and that you have to have that for that country to function, right? Like when you see it, you're like, oh my God, they're living white. Well, that's where that thing that we aspire to, or some of us aspire to, like I said, most of us are sustaining, or those who are, that's where that success is. So that's where they are now, right? So they come out of ADOS-ness with that.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah, I just think we have a level to go. It's always been to me that Africa's been so global that even if you're from a country in Africa, you don't expect that you are sustaining it. You know it's run by something else, right? I think we've got levels to go to our own growth, our own the goal of ADOS, defining your who you are, and defining that separate place, and making that separate place sustainable. I don't think you get that by going someplace else. I
don't either, and I agree with you on that part. And what I will say, and this will be my last thought, and I'll let you in. But I think the first step in that is really assessing your road, right? It's really assessing who you are in America and as a group, and who you aspire to be in America, right? Like there has to be, as some, it's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you talk about we're just sustaining, right? If you're living at the level where you're just sustaining, there are some things that you are necessarily blind to, because you're thinking about survival and eating and paying the bills, and the world where stuff flourishes is a much more creative kind of endeavor a lot of times, right? So that's a part of it too. There's so many angles to this, but we could have a great conversation.
I think so. Well, I'm glad I called, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to talk to you.
I appreciate you calling in. It provided a different perspective, but I appreciate it. And I always thank you so much. And I always like to talk to people who grew up during a specific time, because it's just a different conversation about, and it's, even when you talk about Africa, I would have a hard time being wealthy in a part of the world. Like even if I could go to a country in Africa and make a bunch of money, I would have an issue with like being wealthy. I haven't even really assessed why, but I would kind of have an issue of being wealthy in a country where people are poor, and it's not my country to even, I just would feel away. I don't know why, but I could go to a Western country and be wealthy. I don't, white people, whatever. So I don't know. I just would feel away, and I think you have to kind of assess all of your psychological and emotional drivers too. We all have psychological and emotional drivers that have to be assessed and kind of questioned, right? So I think that's a part of it too. 678, I'm coming to you. 678, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette.
Hey, how you doing?
Can you hear me?
Pretty good.
Yeah, I'm the guy. I got hung up on last time because I had it on mute.
Oh, that's what happened. I was like, where did 678 go? I don't know.
But I just want to say, I'm a huge supporter of you and Tones. I mean, I donate. Me and my wife, we donate to you guys religiously. We completed our OMB.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we serious. We are serious. I mean, you guys are more serious because you guys are the originators, and we've been around listening to a lot of people call in, claim support. We've seen a lot of people come. We've seen a lot of people go.
That's true.
just by
That's
watching
life.
the show. But we're one of those loyal people. We just want to stick around. We're going to stay on the back end, and just do what you guys ask us to do and what you guys need us to do. But I just wanted to say that your conversation today about Burna Boy and stuff. We traveled to different countries before, and with ADOS, if you're listening, they know who we are, no matter where we go. And a lot of ADOS may not get a chance to travel outside of the United States right now, but I can guarantee you that immigrants coming, well, let's say what they would consider black immigrants coming to America, they know who ADOS is. They recognize us when we're not even in our own country. I have proof of that just by being in other countries, myself and my wife. And these are immigrants who immigrate from Africa to other countries that we've traveled to, like New Zealand, Australia, Ecuador. They'll walk past us, and they know we're not them. And with ADOS and all, we know we're not them either. But now we really know who we are. We know, we're American descendants of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a big family, 8 brothers, 3 sisters. I was born in 1972. I just turned 50 on November 16th. But I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and Brownsville first, and then Bedford-Stuyvesant. So the ghettos, when I grew up during the 80s and the 90s, have completely changed. And this is why ADOS is so important, because erasure is really happening in a lot of these neighborhoods that used to be considered ghettos. And you can look up some of these old neighborhoods, and they're not even ghettos anymore. Mm. So with you and you and Tone, and you guys are pushing the data, that's going to be so important as we move further down into the future. Because guys like me in my 50s, I can, I grew up around a lot of people who knew about, the crack, red top, blue tops just being sprinkled throughout our neighborhoods. I used to tell people when I was a kid, looking outside, seeing the crack spots across the street from my house, seeing families affected, seeing the police run through our neighborhoods like it was, they used to call them street sweeps. So, they just pretty much come through our neighborhoods and snatch us up, not having any legal lawyers or anything like that. It was just done. So there's you guys already know there's a lot of us in jail that shouldn't be in jail. There's a lot of us who have died who should not have died during those eras. Yep. But they're pretty much erasing a lot of that in those neighborhoods with gentrification and all of that. So ADOS is so important because you guys are really keeping to the numbers, the stats, and also our history, and following that lineage line, because America will not be able to hide those time frames and those eras when our people have been catching hell.
And if you don't protect your story, let me tell you, nobody else will. People would love to throw away, keep talking trash, Snoop Dogg and y'all. They will throw away all of slavery, everything we suffered. They're already trying to rewrite history and say people of color suffered slavery and not Adolf specifically. So just keep it up and see where we land at.
Yeah, and it's very insulting. When I first started hearing people of color, I took African American studies, and I went to Martin Luther King High School. So I started learning a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit about my history and just the name changes from, Negro to, black, slave, slave to black to Negro, to all the, just the different name changes that we've always had. And nothing hits the target like American descendants of slavery. And my biggest challenge right now behind the scenes is getting my family in Portsmouth, Virginia, Suffolk, Virginia, from the South, and New York, New Jersey. I've been working on converting everybody.
There you go. That's what we need, more ambassadors. That's what I'm talking about. Get the family involved.
It's tough, though. Yvette, it's tough.
I know. You got to tell me. I'm co-founder of the movement and the president of the foundation. I still have to be like, what are you talking about? So I know.
But this is the thing. The Pan-African thing is real. Like, people have been brainwashed. And well, let me not say brainwashed. Our people have been looking for something to attach onto for so long that they would have jumped on anything that came their way, I feel. And so when I was talking with my family members about Africa this and Africa that, my strongest argument that I've made to my family that seems to hit home is, I do a lot of the hashtag respect ADOS ancestors. So if you see that, that's me doing that just all over the place. But I tell my family members, my cousins, my nieces, nephews, and aunts and everything, I tell them, how is it possible that we can just fly or skip over our ancestors' bones and our ancestors' graves, get on a plane and just fly all the way over to Africa and skip all of that lineage and skip all of their blood, sweat, and tears that they and the graves that they fought and died for to get us to where we are now? How can we skip over all of them and just go straight over to Africa and just look there to try to find some semblance of pride when pride is in the ground in America? And so they're starting to now. I said, if you were born in, I need you to go now to the 60s, to the 50s, to the 40s, to the 30s, to the 20s, and just keep going back. And when you start going that far back through your lineage, there's no way in the world that you're not going to get emotional and that you're not going to feel some type of way about
and that you're not going to feel connected to
your grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, your great-great-great-great-grandparents.
Yeah, I think the thing that happens that a great point you just brought up. One of the things that people do, like Burna Boy, and I want to take it just off of him, but it's not, because it's not just him, is that they want us to feel a connection with Africa. Really and truthfully, we should be forging a connection, like you just said, with our own ancestors, right? One of the things that that has been allowed to happen is that we have ancestry now. We can find out who our people are. We should be fixated on like figuring that connection out, where our people are, where they come from. Oh my God, and taking it back to especially since we're talking about reparations now. Let's take it all the way back to the plantation. Let's go back as far as you can. We don't have time to skip over them, like you just said. We don't have time to skip over them and go to Africa. Go to. You want to go back to the people who sold you, as opposed to people who are here fighting for you. Now I'm not. Listen, we gotta. These are your people. Like if they had not persevered here, you wouldn't be here. Like, who do you owe?
Yes. And it's about accountability too. That's one thing I think our people have never really demanded from the United States is accountability. Accountability for enslaving our ancestors. Accountability for murdering our ancestors, right? And our ancestors are more closer to us than any continent in Africa. Like I said, I'm born in 72. My mother was and father was born in the 1940s. Cherie and I, we traced our ancestors back to the 1800s. But when we took that journey, what was surprising to me was how emotional it became, right? And that's a connection that that journey we all need to take, because as we go backwards, and we start seeing slavery on those, on those forms and papers, as far as like not marriage certificates, but census reports that I've seen and stuff like that, when we start seeing sharecropping and we start seeing our ancestors having to go through that type of hell in America, that connection is something that you and Tone, that's why they're scared of y'all. Because they're scared of the masses going through that journey that a lot of us are starting to go through. And then getting emotional like we get emotional. And then now start to think about accountability.
Well, it's also
the same way these other groups receive reparations. It's like, well, why haven't we received reparations?
Well, and the thing is, fam, it wakes up.
Gone through hell.
It wakes up that fire. Like we have been. I call us a sleeping giant because we are. Like if you were to wake up the ancestors within us, right? The whole America would shake. Like you got to understand that this movement that started on YouTube, right, has gone. Like imagine if a fourth of Negro. I don't need all Negroes. I don't need everybody. Like imagine if a fourth of Negroes decide they want to wake up. You don't even got to get all of them. This whole country shakes. Like it shakes this country to the core because nobody has the story that we have. For as long as we have it, nobody is so right. Like the thing that shakes them too is that we are so right. Like we are more right than anybody has been. Ain't no kind of equivocation, ain't no nothing. And they realize like go ahead, fam.
And one other thing, this is why they people hate you and Tone so much. Because for the ADOS or black, let's say black people, I'm not going to even say ADOS. But for the black people who called in to that OMB and was anti-ADOS, right? To me, those are the people who want to remain asleep. They don't want to go down that journey to look at and see what happened with their ancestors. Because the thing that I noticed most about a lot of those calls is that people were so disconnected and so insensitive when they mentioned slavery. Mm-hmm. It was like it was just a thing. It wasn't like it was like they would mention that their ancestors were enslaved and there was emotion behind it. Or there was anger behind it. The only anger I heard was toward you, toward Tone, and toward ADOS. Mm-hmm. Not toward the people that enslaved their ancestors.
And let me just say this. Let me say this, fam. Let me say this too.
Burn their ancestors.
But let me say this too. Here's the thing that just kind of blew my mind. And I'm going to let you, then I'm going to give you a last word and I have to move on. But it's been a great call. One of the things that blew my mind about the OMB is everybody was using ADOS language. Flat blackness. My people come from chattel slavery. All of the things that we have been saying, they were saying. So they were regurgitating everything that we were saying while at the same time saying we don't want no acronym. We don't want ADOS. So you're taking everything that we gave you in terms of a framework for reparations and rejecting the people who gave it to you. Like that was the worst thing. Yeah. Like if you had said something else and you want to be something else, Choctaw, whatever, that's not you. But if that's what you want to be, I still think you're getting in the way and you just been watching too many YouTube videos and not ours. But to take all of the language that we gave you, use it for something else and say we don't want to be represented by an acronym. Somebody said in the show the other day, the United States of America, when you say USA, that's an acronym. The NAACP is an acronym. The Office of Management and Budget, when you call it OMB, that's an acronym. And when some of these people were rocking with us and were at the ADOS conference, they had no problem being with an acronym. Like that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But I've never just seen people come up and say, listen, I'm going to say everything that ADOS says here. I'm going to be a fan of disaggregation. Nobody was talking about disaggregation before ADOS. Nobody was talking about lineage. I'm going to say all of that, but then I'm going to poop on the people who brought me to the party. That's what it was. But I'm going to let you have the last word, fam.
Yeah, well, we all, know about our history, and we know how our own people have unfortunately been used to take down our own leaders. Because, the standard of keeping whiteness and white power at its foundation is still there. And so when I was listening to those callers as well, their only agenda, was to come at ADOS, come at Tone, come at Yvette.
Not come at America.
Their agenda had...
not come at America.
Their agenda had... Exactly. It had nothing to do with coming at America. It had nothing to do with having any feelings or emotions toward their ancestors and what their ancestors experienced, which led me to believe that they weren't even potentially ADOS. And if they were, they so disconnected from their ancestors, they might as well be they might as well be working side by side with the overseers.
I agree.
Or they might as well just be the Nigerians or other Africans who were selling Africans over, across the Atlantic.
I agree. I agree.
Their only goal is money.
Yeah, I agree. I gotta get to a couple more callers, but I'm gonna let you have this quick last where I gotta get to a couple more. I got a couple more callers in the queue.
So just to wrap this up, Burna Boy's trash. Just like any other rapper coming over from overseas or anywhere else, they're pretty much they're just piggybacking off the ADOS culture. ADOS is the bomb.
Thank you.
They will try to stop us, but they can't stop us. The movement is strong, and the more we all become more educated and get in touch more with our ancestors, then it's gonna be even more amazing because you guys are doing great work.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate you.
Keep up the great work. Tom,
I appreciate you. I appreciate you, fam. Thank you so much. And thank you to the person who gave me pancake money. Pancakes are for me every Saturday. So I appreciate it. That's exactly what I spend it on. Listen, I wonder, we have a few hundred people in the chat. All of y'all, I expect everybody to get those letters done. If you have we have a deadline coming up in April. Please get those OMB letters done. I should have a few hundred letters, 700 plus. Like, get those letters done. Get them to OMB. Tell them why ADOS is important to you and your life, your work. I'm doing a training. I think that may be the last training, but I'm not sure. You have to go to ADOSfoundation.org/claim the name. That's ADOSfoundation.org/claim the name. But I know I'm doing a training on the Friday, which I think is the 24th. So if you have not done a training, please show up and do that training, and we can train together. And we'll take some questions after that. If you have not done a training for the OMB, we need your letters. Even during the comments, they kept telling people, hey, if you really feel strongly, we need your letter. So we need everybody's letter. It doesn't have to be perfect or anything like that. We just want you to express why this is important to you, what it means, the importance of slavery, the impact of being ADOS in your life as in juxtaposition to anybody else. This is where you make all the work that we have been doing meaningful. Okay? That's what we do. So I am going to another caller. I am going to 609. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, it's Tiana calling from San Diego by way of Atlantic City. How are you tonight, fam?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Great show as always. I love how you so intellectually drag the Burna Boy or whatever his name is, but I don't even want to spend any more time on him. I just want to say I feel like we are in a big real-life scenario of a therapy session, and I'm going to explain what I mean. I'm going to use a metaphor. I feel like we're in therapy. It's ADOS in therapy against our rapists, the United States government. They have raped our culture. They have raped our ancestors. They have raped our wealth, and they have left us the cost, which is the institution of slavery, a.k.a. the cost of slavery. And I also feel like we're in a group therapy session, but I feel like not only are we in therapy with the government, I feel like we're in the room with the family members that when we spoke up about that rape, they told us to be quiet and shut up, a.k.a. all of those people that clogged that phone line for the town hall when the real ADOS people that have been doing the work for years couldn't get in. That's those people in the room telling us to be quiet.
Yeah,
don't talk about that rape. Act like it didn't happen.
You just got to stop thinking about that.
And not only are we in therapy. Oh, sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
No, I just said they'll be like, you just got to stop thinking about that. Child, what? But you right there.
Just be quiet. You don't think about it. It didn't happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And fam, not only, I ain't gonna be long, because I know it's other callers on the line. I want to be, aware and considerate of their time. But also, not only are we in therapy with them, we're also in therapy with the people, aka the ADOS clones and the ones they say imitation is the best form of flattery. Not in this situation. No, it's not.
No, it's
y'all not ADOS.
I mean, it's just, it's just, it's just, and the people bring up, oh, well, Yvette, you told us to go our own way. Yes, because you were being disruptive and you were being destructive.
Yes.
So if you keep doing that, I have to say you have to go do something. It's not because you were working and you were moving. If you were working and you were moving and you were teaching people and there were people behind you, we would have seen that kind of discipline at the OMB. We would have seen that. Right. Instead, we saw people who had claimed one thing show up and just advocate for African American in a general way. Like, that's not, you flipped all the way back to African American when you called the OMB. That's never been what we stand for. We don't stand for that. And so you came up with another name and decided at the last minute you couldn't use it. It was just a comedy of errors, except this is not a comedy. This is real life. So it was so problematic. And I think it really showed in shout out to everybody in the org, because in the foundation, because what it really showed is that this is what it looks like when you take your time and try to do it right, right? This is what it looks like when you show up. And the people who are with you and volunteering and doing all of this stuff out of the kindness of their heart, taking time away from their families, this is what they look like when they show up. And this is why we want them to show up. This is why we don't rush. This is why we try to build capacity to make sure we have enough people. Is because it needs to look that way. It's not because we're just being slow or we're just whatever. We want to show up a certain way when we show up, right? And that's just what it is. Stuff has to happen in stages. You ever look at life? If you want to ever learn anything about how life should go, look at nature. Nature happens in stages. Spring happens, right? And everything is alive. And then summer happens, and it's hot and it's whatever. Then fall happens, and everything's about to die. And life happens in stages. You don't just go from stage 1 to stage 10. It just doesn't work. And we know that. And so that's why we were the way we were. And so shout out to everybody who called in. Y'all were wonderful. Y'all did great. Love y'all too. Just want to say that. Go ahead, family. I'll let you finish.
Yes, love everybody that called in. Thank you. Thank you, Yvette. I called in as well. I was nervous. This is actually my first time calling in tonight. I'm not a good public speaker. I don't like speaking in front of large crowds, but y'all family. So I had to call in for the OMB as well as tonight and just say thank you, Yvette, for the training. It feels good to be able to speak from a place of intellect and education and data. Shout out to you and Tone. Shout out to Simeon. Shout out to everybody in the org and all the ADOS fam that's putting in the work.
Shout out to
we could have easily showed up and acted a fool, but that's not who we are.
And that's what happened. And shout out to Ja'Cory Arthur, who is the head of the outreach team and worked and did the training. Shout out to, like you said, shout out to Simeon, who was the best facilitator and editor and everything else in order that you've ever seen. Shout out to everybody who did. We from Vicky to Aisha, everybody. Like everybody got to chip in. Like I'm somebody who throws credit where it goes, and that credit goes in a bunch of different directions. So shout out to all of them for doing what they did for free. So.
Absolutely. Shout out to everybody. ADOS North. Shout out to
She did great. She did great too. Y'all all did great. I know y'all say
seen and unseen. Shout out to all y'all. And I just love coming
shout
in
to
correct
Georgette, who did
how
great
we
too.
Did, and this is just the beginning.
Yeah, shout out to everybody. Everybody, I know everybody said I could tell who was nervous, but that didn't take away from anything. Like the calls were still good, and I know people were like, oh, I was nervous. You still got your point across, right? And you had your points down. And I thought everybody did fabulous. I didn't. There was not one ADOS call I was like, oh man, that was really a mess. I didn't think that not one time. So y'all did a great job. Pat yourself on the back. It was wonderful.
Yes,
now do your letter.
I don't want to take up too much more time.
Thank you.
I just want to say have a great birthday next week. You deserve it. Like I said, I'm sending you your pancake and your syrup money. I already donate to the org. Shout out to the ADOS fam. I'm going to jump back down in the chat. Love y'all.
Thank you. I appreciate you, fam. And listen, fam, I apologize, but we are love you back. We are almost at we are at an hour and 51 minutes, so I apologize. I'm not going to get to all the callers tonight, so I apologize, y'all. I'm not going to get to y'all tonight. Apologies. But yeah, I think, honestly, everybody did great. And I think doing great Doing great in terms of the OMB was a testament to like what we've all been doing here, right? We've all been like, and it's not just something I'm doing. We've all of y'all have been reading articles and oh, I saw this and oh, I found this. And so it's not just, yeah, we do the book club and all of that, but y'all send me stuff. Like I get stuff like, oh, I didn't see this happen. When this happened? Oh, this book came out. When this book came out, right? Like, oh, you know, so it's just, we have as a collective now, a kind of political culture that really showed up at the OMB, right? That's really what it was. We have a political culture that showed up at the OMB in a very meaningful way. And I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And y'all did great. Like, and we showed up very respectfully, to advocate for ourselves. Now, just let's get that letter in there. Advocating for ADOS, and we in there, right? And for some of y'all, I'll see y'all Friday in training. If not, do not forget, I think Friday the 24th, right? Do not forget that next week there will not be any shows. If somebody does forget, tell them. Remember, Yvette said that it wasn't going to be no show next week. Remember, she said that. You done forgot? You done forgot already? So fam, I appreciate y'all. Fun show, great callers. I apologize for not being able to get to all the callers. I will see you all not next week. I will see you all the week after next, except for those who are registered for a training. Until then, please keep it easy breezy. Take care of yourself. Finish your libation. Hit that like button if you have not subscribed. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see y'all next time. Fully what do you call that? When you got your energy, you done got rested. Fully rested and stuff when I get back. All right. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.